Uh, Hi, a very good evening to everyone. On behalf of Oakbridge Publishing and Lloyd, I extend a warm welcome to our dignitaries and the audience joining us from different parts of the country. We are delighted to have Advocate Puneet Bhasin with us to share her valuable insights on the topic online crimes against women and children, the way ahead. Advocate Bhasin is a pioneering cyber law expert and the founder of Cyberjure Legal Consulting and Academy. We are also proud to have her as our author. We are also joined today by Ms Ratna Pawan, Transformation Director, Risk Advisory with EY India, as the mentor moderator for today's discussion. Ms. Pawan has significant experience in financial services industry across various domains and is recognized as a subject matter expert in the risk domain. In today's discussion, we will explore and understand the various online crimes that are committed against women and children, the remedies that are available in law. In addition to this, another dimension that probably requires consideration is the fact that the children are also uh, perpetrators of online crimes, which may have been committed intentionally or unintentionally. While the internet and social media have brought us several benefits, it has also left us vulnerable, especially women and children. How does one deal with these crimes that are committed in the virtual world is critical for children and women to understand. As our reliance on internet is only increasing each day, especially during these pandemic times. With this brief background, I now invite Ms. Pawan to open the discussion.
Thank
Ma'am,
you,
please.
Sachin. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for the round of introductions. That was very helpful and for initiating the subject. But before we go there, Puneet, I'm always very impressed with your professional trajectory. And Sachin has, kind of introduced you a little bit. But what I'm always in awe of is the fact that you are not only a subject matter expert on cyber data protection, GDPR, you're a TEDx speaker, you're a thought leader, you're the founder of Cyberjure Legal Consulting, you're an advisor to the Rajya Sabha committee, no less. You're also been awarded the best cyber or lawyer in India. Wow. And it's no wonder then that somebody with your kind of credentials has authored a book titled The Laws Related to Social Media Crimes, Intermediaries, Digital Media, and OTT Platforms. So, welcome, Puneet, and I'm very
Glad to
happy
be here.
to be here with you. Okay, now Sachin did introduce the subject, but let me kind of start a little bit on that. It's a very disturbing subject as a woman to really deal with.
Yes.
Though the status of women honestly mirrors the social, economic, and political development of a country as large as India, women have been facing for ages now violence right from their birth to old age, their complete life cycle, with varying degrees of relevance and forms, with manifestations including but not limited to sexual assaults, domestic violence, caste based discrimination, honor killing, sexual
Yes.
harassment, so on and so forth. Um, what is your take on this, Puneet?
Well, actually, with technology advancing, a lot of these crimes have gone online today. So the same abuse that women used to face, let's say, over, in physical means. So whether, let's say, there were families, it's very interesting. There were families which used to orally abuse a woman. Today, it's happening in family WhatsApp groups. So we do receive such cases from women who are saying, "Oh, we're being maligned on a family WhatsApp group." So the same thing that used to happen in a physical world is now going digital. Stalking that used to happen physically today is happening online, and the most disturbing part is it's very difficult to know that you're being stalked online. So the number of platforms and the avenues, you can't really view who is going about watching every single move that you make on the internet. So the kind of anonymity that is there, the lack of transparency out there for any woman actually exposes her to a lot of risks. And there are multiple cases where kidnappings are linked to location tracking that's happening using different mobile applications. The worst case is being nudification of photos of women. So women post pictures for different kinds of challenges online on social media, and a lot of these pictures getting misused on escort sites. Some of them being nudified, and further for extortions, for multiple other offenses that are being committed against women. So unfortunately, what used to happen where, you could say the modesty of a woman was outraged in the physical world, today that same kind of outraging of modesty is happening in the virtual world. And honestly, it's quite bad. So it's not that you would say only if physically somebody does it, it's bad, and virtually it happens, it's not bad. That's not how it is. If you will see the case of Sully deals, bully by, these kind of instances have actually proved that the kind of trauma that a woman suffers, even if it happens online, is equally bad.
Absolutely, Puneet. In fact, I was going to refer to the Sully Deals and Bully Buy apps case because it's recently been discussed very widely in the media,
Mm,
and I'm going to kind of come to you with a question around, and I think a lot of people discuss that the intermediary platforms that
mm,
host these. Now, these were apps. In the Bully Buy case, there was also a Twitter handle that
mhm.
kind of directed you to that app,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. So let's talk a little bit, Puneet, about the roles and responsibilities of these intermediaries and their accountability in all of this, in so much abuse coming up in their online platforms.
See, an intermediary, especially after the February rules of 2021, is absolutely held liable and accountable for the activities of third parties or any application on their portals. So, if they are allowing, like some of them actually are even considered as publishers now. So, initially they used to just call themselves an aggregator of content, etc., etc. And many of them, as per the new definitions of an intermediary, if you look into it, actually are classified as publishers today, which means there is a higher level of responsibility coming onto their shoulders for the content that they are promoting also. So in such a situation, when you will see intermediary platforms like Twitter, you will see platforms like the app stores which are hosting these kind of apps which are detrimental to women. First of all, the rules, as even the book mentions, the rules lay out that there has to be a grievance officer, and the grievance officer, upon receiving any such complaint which is of a crime against a woman, involving nudity of a woman, etc., has to immediately pull it down. No questions asked. So prior to February 2021, a woman would have to go to the police, she would have to go to court to maybe get an order to get the link taken down. And today, this is a one method redressal. And if an intermediary doesn't comply, then they will lose their intermediary status, which means intermediary, you will not, it's not that you won't be an intermediary, but the protection that is granted to you under Section 79 of the IT Act, wherein you are not held responsible for content posted on your platform. If you are not the person who has posted it, promoted it, or you don't decide who is the person viewing it, then in such a situation, you are exempt from liability. Like what happened in the Bazi.com case. If you know, there was a person, a young boy had posted the Delhi school girl MMS CD for
Yeah,
sale.
yeah.
And Avinash Bajaj, the CEO, actually spent prison time. So the kind of a thing where an intermediary at that time was held liable, and then post that Section 79 was amended, where liabilities of intermediaries were restricted. So now the new rules of 2021, if you will see, they again bring back some amount of liability to an intermediary where they cannot just shrug off all responsibility. So in the event an intermediary does not take action upon such content and the notice that is received about it, then immediately the protection that is granted to them under Section 79 of the Information Technology Act is lost, which means they are exposed to FIRs that can be filed against them for any content on their platforms all over India, anywhere. Criminal action can be initiated against them. So basically, they are absolutely exposed in such a situation. And that is absolutely serious, for that matter of fact, for something like this to happen to an intermediary platform. Now, one point here, Ratna, I would like to highlight is that the protection under Section 79 is available to an intermediary if it doesn't decide who the viewer of the content will be. A lot of intermediary platforms today, especially social media platforms, they have multiple AI tools running in the background which actually show you content that you may be interested in. So basically, there is targeting of content.
Hmm.
So, which by default, to a great extent, if you realize many of them are already exempt from Section 79, they will not be covered because of this situation. However, this question of law has not yet come up. This question of technology being used by them, the targeting and determining who's going to view content, that has really not come up. But yes, that is a matter of concern where even right now, most of them actually do not have that protection if they are deciding who the viewers for content are going to.
Wow, very interesting. So good to see some, kind of liability being placed there, and some kind of action that's happening there. So that should be useful going forward, right? Okay, let me take a step back here, Puneet. I was reading this, for the session today. I was just kind of reading up some reports and articles. Now, as per the Standing Committee on Home Affairs report on the atrocities of crimes against women and children, report of 2021, really. One of the things that really stands out in that report is that, firstly, the registration of crimes against women and children is very low in our country.
Yes.
And secondly, the conviction rate of these crimes is also very low. Now, how does the common woman, or family on the ground deal with something like that? What is it that you want them to know?
See, what tends to happen is, now I'll tell you something. The police, in a lot of other cases, may not easily register an FIR, but crimes against women and children are normally taken very seriously. So, when you approach a police station, the chances they will refuse an FIR in cases of crimes against women and children is quite remote, unless they feel that it's absolutely a sham.
Hmm.
Now, what tends to happen is the number of women who really approach the police stations to register a complaint are very few. So
Hmm.
what tends to happen is the number of victims are a lot more, but they tend to feel a sense of victim shaming if they end up going to a police station. They feel, what will relatives say? So let's say there is a
Right.
video of a woman which is nudified or shared, etc., or a revenge porn video. Her first thought will be, if I go to the police station, first of all, the police officers will end up seeing the video. Then, if 10 other people end up seeing the video, if my family comes to know about the same, so many questions that go around that, even before she can take any step or legal action, she backs out from the same. The number of people actually registering the complaints is comparatively less, and that is one of the reasons why the conviction rate is also less. So, a lot of crimes against women, if you will see in the physical crimes against women, there is a conviction rate. But in digital crimes against women, the conviction rate becomes lower because the number of women approaching the police reduces. One of the major issues being the outreach of such crimes. So let's say there is a video put up of a woman on a social media site or anywhere, the kind of outreach it has. So in a
Hmm.
physical crime, the same thing would have been, let's say, in a book or something which has a limited viewing. And suddenly here you have millions of people viewing it. So you can imagine what the woman really goes through. And to go about filing a police complaint, it's going to be maybe another 15 people going to view it. The family going to ask questions, society going to ask questions. Many times people don't even believe that the video may not belong to the woman. There are applications which can nudify figures and pictures, etc.
Yeah.
So, there are so many things that a woman faces at that point of time that, she may have to answer her own family. So that's where the problem comes.
And that's the sad part, Puneet, that the victim in this case is further victimized, really.
Mhm.
And interesting that you should mention revenge porn. And I think it is in your book that I read a statement which, again, was very disturbing. An NGO report saying that at least 27% of women in India in the age group of 18 to 45 have faced some issue around revenge porn. Is
Yes.
27% is a really
It's
high
a very high
percentage?
percent. It's a very high percentage, but the number of cases reported in this you will find very, very less.
So the actual numbers are much higher, but
Way higher, way higher,
reported is
way
27.
higher.
Okay,
Reporting is 27%.
which in itself is so alarming, right? Now,
Yes,
now,
yes.
now, talk to us a little bit, Puneet. I mean, for somebody of your stage who understand the laws, what is a woman, okay, facing an issue around revenge porn be aware of in terms of the laws that will protect
Mhm.
her?
See, the first thing is whichever platform it is hosted in, she has to go about approaching the grievance redressal officer. Within 24 hours, he has to pull down the content. If he fails to do that, now every intermediary under the intermediary rules of 2021 has to have a 3-tier grievance redressal mechanism. So let's say the grievance redressal officer doesn't do that. Then there is a second level and a third level also. So the second level officer, who again the matter can be escalated to, and a third level who's the chief compliance officer. The chief compliance officer is also is answerable in fortnightly meetings to the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. So many people felt, why is the ministry overseeing such an activity? But if the ministry doesn't oversee, how will you ensure that private organizations are actually complying? That is a big challenge. So they need to report the cases, what action they have taken in fortnightly meetings. So this gives a three-tier mechanism, but this three-tier mechanism is only applicable in cases where social media platforms have more than 50 lakh users. In the case of more than 50 lakh registered users, there is a three-tier mechanism. And for all other intermediaries, it may not be restricted to social media. All intermediary platforms, which are, like you could say, intermediaries are people in the middle who are providing a service. They all need to have a grievance redressal officer, but the three-tier mechanism is reserved for social media intermediaries, which have above 50 lakh registered users.
Wow. Wow. Okay, now let me refer to, we're talking about online crimes against children as well.
Hmm.
And, we kind of, Sachin, when he introduced, said that, and very rightly so, that in the contemporary world that we are in today, and very sorry to see that the number and percentage of crimes against children is equally as high as it is against women.
Yes,
And they face
it
the
is.
same kind of crimes that a normal woman face:
Mhm.
trafficking, sexual
Yes.
abuse, and so on and so
Mhm.
forth, right? In fact, a report that I read said that last year, which is 2021, they saw a 400% rise in crimes against online crimes against children.
Yes.
What is your take on that, Puneet?
Well, actually, last year, a lot of children started using a lot more electronic gadgets. That's where the
Yeah,
problem
yeah.
came. So the crime rate was completely proportionate to the amount of internet usage. So prior to last year and the lockdown and that whole phase, parents were not giving gadgets to their children that easily, internet access that easily. Suddenly, you had schools which were operating online, and kids had access. They were opening social media accounts, chatting on WhatsApp, and that actually gave a lot of access to perpetrators also to access these young children. So suddenly, there were multiple cases in classrooms where, in school classrooms, it was happening that suddenly porn videos were being uploaded by hackers, just to, kind of intimidate the children, the teachers. There were multiple such cases, which so many schools had reported to the cyber cell in Maharashtra alone. So if you're looking at all over India, there would be way more number of cases. So the amount of exposure of children on the internet has increased in this last 1 year. So the more you play online games which are interactive in nature, the more you're on social media, the chances that people who are absolutely targeting these children are going to go about luring them a lot more. And children are very gullible. They don't understand who's good or who's not. So any person who's willing to talk to you, listen to you, in today's times, parents don't have as much time to listen to their children many times. So somebody who's willing to listen to all your woes, listen to your problems, be interactive with you, that's more than enough to actually lure a child in today.
Oh, absolutely. And no wonder then that we are reading so much about the fact that
Yeah.
the COVID-19 has
Hmm.
only accelerated these cases, because the whole world is today online. And like you rightly
Yes.
said, children, parents who did not give access to mobile phones and online to their children were forced to do so because education moved
Hmm.
online for them.
Yes.
So, what is your advice for these parents? How do they protect their children?
See, educating children is very important today. So there was a point of time, like, for example, sex education was also, put under the carpet by children. The same thing today, there is child sexual abuse on the internet. And if parents don't openly talk about it to a child, educate a child won't even know he's being sexually abused online. And that's absolutely common today. So the number of victims of child sexual abuse online is only increasing by the day. So parents, first of all, have to kind of remove that thought process that, this is something taboo that I should not discuss with my child. They need to start opening up to the child, discuss it. So even children, let's say if they come across such sort of an incident with their friends or themselves, they will also open up and talk to their parents. Today, a lot of children are apprehensive even to discuss such subjects with their parents because, they feel the kind of pressure. My parents will think, okay, what is this I'm talking about? So the more open parents become to discuss such a topic, explain to them how child sexual abuse happens online. See, for a child, they can't even understand. Today, I'll tell you what, 12, 13-year-old will understand what is sexual abuse.
Yeah.
how it is happening online, that kid is not going to understand. And he may end up becoming, or she may end up becoming a victim just because they don't understand that they are being victimized. So here, parents need to have a very heart-to-heart conversation and keep that channel of communication open. See, a child is not going to go to the police station first. They are not going to contact a lawyer. They are not going to contact any law enforcement earlier. They are the first contact, or the first place of confidence for them is parents. Second is teachers. So both these avenues have to kind of create a channel of communication, education of children about these offenses, so that they feel comfortable reporting them.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail really by saying that you have to keep the channel of communication open, because that's exactly where it fails. Children need to have the
Yes.
confidence of going to their parents and sharing that there's something that they're uncomfortable with online, because in the physical world, discomfort, can be felt more
Yes.
easily. But on the online world, how do they identify something that's making them uncomfortable? So that kind of
Hmm.
education really needs to be factored either by parents,
Yes.
by the educational institutes, and so on. And online is here to stay, whether
Hmm.
it's in education, whether it's at work. So it's only, we need to ensure that we are educating ourselves and everybody around us on what is it that
Yes.
we need to be wary of in the online world, isn't it? Okay,
That's
now
true. That's
I'm not going to move away from the subject, Puneet, before asking you that as a parent myself, there are a lot of laws, of course, that India has today for protecting, either before or after,
true.
something like that happening, a case like that happening. What is it that the parents need to know?
Now, first of all, you need to understand child sexual abuse comes under POSCO. So
Hmm.
there, the offenses are absolutely aggravated offenses, non-bailable, serious offenses. And the same kind of principle is applied. Those are for physical sexual abuse against children. Now, when you will look at the virtual sexual abuse against children under the Information Technology Act, those are also aggravated offenses, non-bailable, and taken way more seriously. And the kind of punishments are also higher in such cases. So as parents, it's very important to understand, if there is any such instance reported to you, it's important to first of all file an FIR. If
Yes.
it is involving any school personnel, because that is also absolutely common, that many times school personnel itself are perpetrators, sometimes school friends are perpetrators, known people are perpetrators, in some cases it may be unknown people also. So in the case, the avenue where the perpetrator is coming from, reporting the offense over there. Apart from that, counseling and you could say, some kind of help for a child is very important. See, in a physical crime, what tends to happen is parents also realize, children also realize something has happened. In online crimes, I have seen that over the last couple of years, children don't tend to realize, you could say in a very verbose manner, the impact, but they tend to, over some point of time, uh, start closing up, not interacting much with children. Personality changes are seen in them. So children don't understand what is depression. They don't understand these terminologies. They are
Absolutely.
just small nature habits, etc., start changing, which many times parents also do not see. So, if such an instance happens to your child, it's very important to seek some level of counseling to make the child feel normal, not to feel ashamed, not to feel closed up by the fact that something like this has happened.
Interesting. Thanks, Puneet. I'm going to go back to crimes against women, and there was a report again. Statistics always help understand things
Hmm.
better. And I was reading somewhere that crimes against women have gone up by about 46% in 2021, as against,
Mhm.
and it was a Jan to August kind of report, and I think it was
Mhm.
around 20,000 cases reported
Yes.
versus about 13,600 in the previous year, which is between Jan to August in 2020.
Hmm.
My question is, statistics can be looked at in any ways, right? Is
Hmm.
it that the women are getting more confidence to come ahead and report? Is that why the reason the number
Yes.
of cases are up, or is the
Yes.
crime rate really going up?
The number of women reporting is increasing, because today in
Mm,
workplaces women are being educated. Today almost every organization is organizing educational sessions for women, so that they start understanding that they're getting victimized. The same thing is happening in multiple avenues on multiple channels. Like today we are talking about this subject,
mm,
so people have
mm.
started talking about it, which also leads to women realizing, I'm not alone. You see
Yeah.
the Me Too movement. So initially everybody was closed up about sexual abuse, and suddenly when the Me Too movement started, you require one person to talk, and then you'll have one by one everybody opening up. So the moment, there were avenues open for women, they started understanding what this nature of abuse is and examples to follow. Automatically, the number of cases being reported increased.
Excellent. Absolutely. Okay, now, coming back to the online crime world, right? Women are increasingly, of course, online. Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, we see women, and a lot of them have a perpetual habit of posting everything
Yes.
on Facebook, on Snapchat, on
Mhm.
any avenue available and open to them, which of course is something that the perpetrators are using to their advantage, and there are a lot of gullible women out there and children out there who are falling prey to it.
Mhm.
uh, I need you to talk to this segment of women who feel that they really need to post everything online, and what is the risk that they are exposing themselves to.
Now, posting everything about yourself or revealing too much about yourself on the internet is going to expose you to a lot of stalkers, people who are also going to bully you, because the more you put out, the more it gives like fuel. It's like you're adding fodder into the fire. You have people who are waiting to, bully. You have people waiting to stalk. See, basically, idle minds do not have too much of activity, or sometimes the anonymity that the internet offers to them. So they are looking out for victims. And the more you start putting yourself out, I don't mean interacting on the internet. I mean extra information about yourself, the more like where you're going, what you're eating, whom you're talking to. You need to understand you are actually attracting such perpetrators who are looking for such people. They
Yeah.
want people who are going to reveal their information. They are looking for such people. See, today, why would a person want to stalk somebody who's absolutely closed up? There is no thrill in that. The thrill comes where there is availability of that avenue of stalking also in the first place. So the more images that you're posting and the kind of images that you're posting, that is also very crucial, the kind of eyeballs that you're going to attract. So I mean, definitely you may say, there is we are in the 21st century and women can do anything and everything that they want, but unfortunately you're still in a country that has a mindset which is not as per, what you may say, like you may have nude beaches in Spain and everything is okay. Today in India, you cannot do that. You cannot walk out dressed like this and say that because I'm a woman and there is feminism and I can do anything that I want and nobody should look at me that way. You can't control the way other people are going to look at you. You are still living in a society with that mindset, people with that mindset. So end of the day, your protection, your safety lies in your own hands. So before you post any image, it's very important for you to understand what kind of attention it's going to generate, attract, and post. That is when you should actually post. And it's always recommended, do not post too much. So if you're posting about your holidays, you're posting about random information, you're also giving an opportunity to criminals to understand when your house is empty for burglaries. And there are multiple burglaries which are also linked to people actually posting on Facebook. The
Mhm.
common trend that is there, that they will post their location at the airport or traveling to so and so country. Now when you're actually posting that, you're telling the world, my house is empty right now, you can please get in and do anything that you want. So, the more
Absolutely.
you're posting, all of this is what is going to be the, you could say, culminating effect of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you on this. And I find that so ridiculous when people post, from the airports and stuff like that. But anyways,
Yes.
that's their call, but they also have to then bear the consequences of it
Yes,
if
the
it
risk
comes to
to that
that.
is also there.
Yeah, yeah, because it's really high risk. Let's talk a little bit about, online crimes are rampant right now.
Mhm.
What is it that women, and of course there are a lot of laws and regulations that protect such women against these online crimes. Can you talk to us a little bit about what are some of these laws and regulations that women can be comforted with, and knowing that my country has these laws that protect us? Because I know the country has a lot of laws, but how many women on the
Mhm.
ground really know about it?
See, there are multiple provisions of the Indian Penal Code where you see the provisions for physical stalking include even cyber stalking. They have been
Hmm.
amended to include that. We have provisions with respect to outraging the modesty of a woman, which is an offense. And that's a very broad term,
Hmm.
outraging the modesty of a woman. So it includes a lot of things that can come within the ambit of the physical and the virtual world. Again, there are multiple offenses against women under the Indian Penal Code that a woman can take recourse to under the Information Technology Act. So, where obviously online pornography, there are certain curtails made on that, especially with respect to also privacy of women, privacy of the private parts of women. There are multiple things where even revenge porn becomes punishable. So you have all these provisions even under the Information Technology Act, under the Indian Penal Code, and the most important development of law in this was the intermediary rules of 2021 itself, which, if you will see the presentation which the Indian government made to the United Nations after these rules were implemented, one of the key objectives of making these rules was protection of women and children online. That post the lockdown, post everything, they were the most vulnerable groups at that point of time. And this step was taken in order to ensure that intermediary platforms take their responsibility seriously towards women and children.
Interesting. Okay, now, Puneet, obviously, there's a lot of audience, very interested audience listening in and posting a lot of questions on the platforms that listening into. So I have a few questions here from the audience that I would really like to ask you. The first one is a very interesting one, really. Uh, does the state, and a very valid question here, does the state have the necessary infrastructure and apparatus to investigate the online crimes as it's a new premise, right? And to their traditional field of crime, and the numbers are just going up. So do they have the skills and do they have the bandwidth?
Yes. So if you would say, let's say 8 or 9 years back, no, the police was also grappling and trying to wrap their heads around the new kinds of crimes that were coming up online. But in
Mm,
today's times, almost the police of every single state has been trained in this subject. There are cyber cells in every state that are there. Sometimes in multiple big cities, also there are individual cyber cells. Every police station has some officers who are trained in this subject. So things have changed. Yes, there is infrastructure for this. There is infrastructure to investigate such offenses also today.
okay. There's a follow-on question from the same person, and if I understand this question correctly, it says, how many of these artifacts are accepted as evidence by the judiciary today, as these might not be covered in the law until now?
Oh, no, definitely they are actually considered as evidence under Section 65 with the Section 65B certificate. So, under Section 45 of the Indian Evidence Act, where it can be produced as expert evidence. So, you require some form of authentication, especially if it's videos, WhatsApp. You can actually get an expert to kind of give you testimony with respect to it with a Section 65B certificate. It is valid evidence, and as a matter of fact, it is considered as primary evidence. So digital evidence is not considered secondary evidence, it's considered primary evidence, where whatever printouts of emails that you provide are considered primary evidence. In normal
Wow.
situations, any copy of an evidence is considered secondary evidence, whereas only in case of online crimes, even a printout or a copy of an email online is considered primary evidence. So there are adequate laws to safeguard, but yes, the problem really comes is when complainants or people who are filing these complaints and advocates who do not have a full understanding of how to get such evidence admitted, they fail to follow the proper compliance. So they really do not proceed under Section 45. They do not get a certificate of an expert. They do not actually attach a Section 65B certificate. They do not make the evidence admissible. So at some point of time, you give the opportunity to the defense to actually raise questions on your evidence and actually get it thrown out of the court at that point.
Wow,
So
scary.
your advocate needs to be knowledgeable enough to get this evidence admitted on record in the court.
Okay, noted. All right, we'll move on to the next one. Is there a system of maintaining anonymity? And I'm sure this is a question that a lot of women will have in their mind while filing criminal cases against women and children.
Well, you can't actually maintain anonymity. What tends to happen is, see, when you're going to file an FIR, your details are going to be there because it's you who is the victim. How can you anonymize it and do something like that? But yes, in the matter when it goes into trial or litigation, a request can be made to the court that the judgment or the proceedings do not have the name of the woman publicly mentioned.
Yeah,
As a matter of
interesting.
fact, women can also seek in camera proceedings where no third party is allowed to be present in the hearings also. And the courts do award that in such cases where they allow in camera proceedings. And apart from that, many times, like, they will anonymize the name of the woman to some other name or X, etc., when they pass a judgment.
Again, a question that I think a woman has asked here. What remedies does a woman have when the video was shot consensually, but never with the intent of circulation? And obviously, I think this is a case of revenge porn that really happens, where it's shot consensually, of course, and it's used later against the woman.
See, over here also, as I told you, revenge porn is an offense under Indian law. So not only under the Information Technology Act, but under the Indian Penal Code too. So even the Information Technology Act has provisions wherein whether or not the video is taken consensually, the distribution, circulation without consent of such content is considered to be violative of the law. And again, in the Indian Penal Code, it is outraging the modesty of a woman. There are multiple provisions for protecting the rights of women in the Indian Penal Code too. And action can be taken. So just the fact that you've consented to a video being recorded doesn't mean you've consented to its distribution or viewership by 100 people.
Correct, correct, absolutely. All right. Okay, I think you did cover this, but the question is, what are the good practices to keep in mind while using social media and internet? So I think you did
Mhm.
cover this in your in what you
Yes.
said, right? Just be careful, don't post anything and everything.
Hmm.
Just be very mindful of what you're posting. Anything else, Puneet?
No, just this. And one more thing about your family members, too much of information that you keep posting can always be used against you. Always keep your profiles secure, keep them closed. That's always better. Don't add unknown people to your profile because you're actually opening up them up to your life. It's like almost opening your residence door to somebody you don't know. Would you do that in the physical world? Would you open your door to your house to somebody whom you do not know? Then the same thing applies for social media profiles. Be very careful who you're letting in the first place.
Absolutely. And here we're talking about crimes against women and children. But as a
Mhm.
risk professional, I can tell you that the more details you have of yourself out on the social media, the more easier for
Mhm.
perpetrators and really motivated perpetrators to
Yes.
actually duplicate your profile, to create a fake
That's
profile of
absolutely
you.
common. Yes.
And that's very common now, and
Mhm.
to use that profile to actually commit financial fraud.
Mhm.
Okay, so just remember, this is used against for crime and against fraud as well. So the lesser you're out there, the better it is. Okay,
Yes.
moving on to the next question, Puneet. Is there any provision of any online websites? And I think this is, a question that somewhere you did say something about, where they are supposed to be screening any content before one posts any tweet or message, which is defamatory in nature.
See, this is like a double-edged sword. The moment you give them the power to screen, so there is a first level when there is a grievance redressal mechanism at the first level when you complain, yes, they can screen and remove the content immediately. But beyond that, if they are given powers, then that means, who decides what's defamatory? Today, I may give a genuine opinion about something which somebody may consider defamatory.
Yeah.
So these kind of situations, like the law with respect to nude content, with respect to content which cannot be contested as being either side, like it's not two sides of a coin, where it's straight content, there is like a blanket power given in the grievance redressal mechanism. Content which can be doubtful, which can be perspective, there, yes, the court has to get involved in order to determine whether or not genuinely such content should be pulled down.
The next one is, and the question says, is there any team? But I think what it means here, what he means here, is there any bureau who actually checks for criminals and any planned crimes which is discussed on the dark web, crimes against women, things like that,
Mm.
being, kind of
Well,
randomly discussed.
You have the Indian intelligence, which also works with respect to scanning the dark web, and they have cyber forensic services where they're constantly also looking out at what are the kinds of things happening over the deep web, the dark web, and conducting all kinds of online raids, as what we call it. All that is happening.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Good things happening there, but so the perpetrators are also equally motivated, so they keep going on.
Yes.
But let me move on. Would you recommend curriculum around digital abuse and crime in educational institutes so that children, parents, everybody is equally
It's
informed?
1,000% needed in today's time. So even parents need to be educated and children need to be educated. So there's no doubt. That's exactly what I had said. That without that, you are actually making your child way more vulnerable to these offenses because of his lack of knowledge.
Absolutely, so a good question there, and the answer is obviously yes, its time has come.
Yeah.
um, all right, the next one is, in professional sites where one needs to connect and getting in touch with unknown persons, what do we do there?
In professional sites, you're not sharing too much information. So as long as you don't share personal information on professional sites, what difference does it make? It's like say, sharing your CV with multiple people, or it's like you have a website, your professional website. So it's the same way with professional sites where you're making a profile. As long as you're not sharing too much of personal information, everything is fine. Professional information, how can that be misused to a great extent? Unless, yes, there are cases where people have picked up photographs and profiles from professional websites and made fake profiles on matrimonial.coms and cheated people. So those angles are there. But again, that's something that's unavoidable. And if you come to know your profile is misused, you should immediately report.
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree. All right, moving on from there. Truecaller has become such a nuisance where even though I do not use, and this is coming from somebody who has probably been borne the brunt of it, my details are listed. Is there any means to safeguard a woman in this matter?
Unfortunately, Truecaller, it picks up details not just from your phone. So you may not have downloaded Truecaller, but somebody who has your mobile number saved in their phone has downloaded it. So that's
Mm,
how they build their database. Now, in such a situation, you can drop a legal notice to Truecaller notifying them that you do not wish to be listed, and they have to respect that. If they fail to do that, then definitely you can approach the court for enforcement.
okay, cool. Interesting. Is there any check on apps that let you delete your history of message exchange and no local or server history is maintained? How can a victim produce any evidence in court in such
Okay, there
cases?
is nothing called data being deleted on the internet, first of all. So it may
Mm,
be deleted on your interface, doesn't mean it is actually deleted. So when the law enforcement seeks this data within a certain time frame, so every organization, let's say there are internal rules, and even where the law mandates for 9 months, you need to keep that data available. Then when the law enforcement seeks out that data, they can provide it. So at the back end, all the data is there. At the front end, you may feel at the user interface, the data is deleted.
and let me add here, this is both a boon and a bane, right? So just remember,
Yes,
anything that goes online is going to stay
it's
there
always
for
there. It's always there.
perpetuity. All right, so just we need to be careful there. Okay. Puneet, there will be a lot more questions, I'm sure,
Mhm.
from people, because this is a subject that obviously everybody is worried about,
Mhm.
but also interested in knowing. And I'm aware, that your book covers a lot of it. So I would recommend to everybody kind of listening in that, once the book is released, we should all kind of go through that book, because it has a lot of the individual references to each of the subjects that Puneet just covered, right? And the laws that kind of help and govern some of these. So that should be very helpful, Puneet. Anything else that you would like to share at this juncture?
All that I would say, when you're using the internet, just be as safe as you would with your house, be as safe as you would with your vehicles. The same kind of level of precaution, care has to be exercised even when you're using your online profiles. It's equivalent to letting people into your house, giving them a handle of your car, allowing them to do anything that they want. So, the same precaution in the physical world that you exercise is what you need to exercise even over virtual media.
Super, Puneet. So I can already see a question, and that will probably be the last one, but I wouldn't want to let this one go. Tell us about your book. When are you releasing it, and what's it called, and what are you dealing with in that?
29th January is when it's going to be released, and it will be available for everyone to purchase. It's there on Amazon and Flipkart, and it primarily deals with social media crimes, regulation of intermediaries, OTT platforms, and digital media. So it covers a part of the book covers the aspects that we discussed, and there are a lot of other aspects with respect to social media crimes and intermediary OTT regulation, which is also covered in that.
Fantastic, Puneet. This was, 50 minutes, very well spent. Thank you for your time, Puneet. But let's get Sachin back here.
Uh, Thank you. We thank Advocate Puneet Bhasin for sharing her experience and advice on dealing with online crime against women and children. And we are also thankful to Ms Ratna Pawan for steering the discussion and helping explore the various dimensions of the topic. Last but not the least, a big thank you to the audience for participation. Wish you all a safe and restful weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.